You all criticize George W. Bush for nation building. Well, what is this?
Israel has ordered him to send boots on the ground, clean up their mess, steal the Palestinian land for them. And by the way, do you think the 2 million Palestinians, 2.2 million Palestinians there are gonna go quietly into that good night? The bill is gonna come due, Netanyahu is gonna come to collect this check, and Trump and almost all of Congress will get walked around the park again, and they'll all give him exactly what they want. And then how mad is MAGA? That's gonna decide everything.
Devastating news for Palestinians who have dealt with over a year of their family members getting slaughtered, of their homes, their schools, their universities, their hospitals getting pulverized. Now they're hearing that the President of the United States will aid and abet the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
You can't live in Gaza right now, and I think we need another location. I think it should be a location that's going to make people happy. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently in nice homes and where they can be happy and not be shot, not be killed, not be knifed to death like what's happening in Gaza, I don't think people should be going back to Gaza.
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return.
How many people are you thinking about?
All of them.
Few things are more humiliating than the United States getting dog walked, the President of the United States getting dog walked by a foreign leader. And in this case, as is usually the case here in the United States, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, smirks as Donald Trump does his dirty work, his dirty bidding in promising to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip of Palestinians, forcing them off their land and essentially pressuring neighboring countries, particularly Egypt, to absorb them as refugees.
Yeah, so first of all, yeah, he had that sly smile on his face the whole time, Netanyahu, like he just ate a bird. But also he looked like he was a ventriloquist. And meanwhile, the puppet is talking. And so we just exchanged puppets, that's all that happened. And I told you that Trump would be worse than even Biden, who was horrific. And we told you that they had a deal. And that's why Netanyahu did that so-called ceasefire as soon as Trump came in. And the deal is, yeah, I destroyed Gaza. Now you use it as an excuse to expel all the Palestinians, and you help us with the ethnic cleansing. So there you go, exactly as ordered by his boss, Trump came in and was like, yes, sir, I'll do everything you ask. Even more pathetic than Joe Biden. Let's be clear about it.
So this was during a press conference between Netanyahu and Donald Trump. This was a long planned press conference. Now, here's Trump stating that Palestinians would love to leave Gaza because he would know what's in their hearts and minds better than they do, and that they have absolutely no other alternative but to leave Gaza. Take a look.
I feel very differently about Gaza than a lot of people. I think they should get a good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, and we get some people to put up the money to build it and make it nice and make it habitable and enjoyable and make it a home.
They don't want to leave, though. Palestinians say they don't want to leave.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site.
That amount to forcibly displacing those people from Gaza?
I don't think so. I think if they had the opportunity, they'd love them. If they had an alternative to Gaza, they have no alternative right now. I mean, they're there because they have no alternative. What do they have? It is a big pile of rubble.
Right, it is. It is a big pile of rubble. Why? Why is the Gaza Strip a big pile of rubble? Could it be due to the terrorist you're sitting next to, the Prime Minister of Israel? Could it be that that guy is the one who led the effort in essentially destroying the entirety of the Gaza Strip, killing tens of thousands of people, most of whom were innocent civilians, women, children, elderly people? And we're gonna pressure other countries to absorb Palestinians, help ethnically cleanse Gaza of Palestinians, and essentially settle them as refugees in other neighboring countries. By the way, the neighboring countries, including Egypt, not interested. But when the pause on foreign aid was announced, Remember, there were 2 exceptions, and those 2 exceptions were Israel, of course. American taxpayers are the personal ATM machines for the Israeli people and Israeli government. There's no question about that. But there was also foreign aid continuing to flow to Egypt. Why? Maybe that's part of the bribery that the United States wants to engage in order to convince Egypt, to take Palestinians in.
Well, it's part of a peace deal that they made. And so the only reason Egypt's getting a dime is because Israel authorized it. Otherwise, they would never get anything. Now, understand, the Middle East has no funding from America anymore at all, except Israel. So all their competitors wiped off the board. Now they don't. This is just a literal fact, and you can catch all sorts of emotions about it if you like, okay? You can catch them on both sides. But Israel went from being the country that we gave the most aid to being the only country we give aid to. And along with Egypt, only because Israel ordered it. So now they have all of our aid. And now we're canceling aid to the UN, to everyone else that might ever think about helping Palestinians. So what did you get? You got America first? No, you didn't. You got America second at best. Israel is always first. And by the way, if you're a Democrat, don't tell me that, you're outraged by this.
No, they love it.
Okay, because Joe Biden did the same goddamn thing, and all we heard from, I don't mean Democratic voters, Democratic officials, leadership, etc. Oh, it's great, Israel, we love you, we will obey you no matter what. And then what did Biden give them, over $20 billion? We've now given over $300 billion to Israel. Okay, when do we get our end of this deal? And you can catch all kinds of feelings about this. I don't give a goddamn. I'm tired of this robbery. They bribe our officials through so-called campaign contributions. The Adelses have given $337 million to Donald Trump, Sheldon and Miriam, and they bought him on behalf of Israel. That is an undeniable fact. Anyone who is lunatic enough to say, no, I bet Trump's not affected by the $337 million. I bet Biden wasn't affected by the $11 million he got from AIPAC. I bet none of the politicians were affected by over $100 million that AIPAC spent in this election. Oh yeah, are they bought by Israel? Oh, that sounds so outrageous and offensive. No, the ethnic cleansing and genocide of the Palestinians, it is what is deeply offensive. The fact that all of our presidents are bought is deeply offensive. So MAGA, enjoy America second.
So Trump repeated that Jordan and Egypt should take in Palestinian refugees and that the whole Gaza Strip should be, his words, cleaned out. Now, additionally, Trump made it very clear who's running or calling the shots when it comes to foreign policy related to the Middle East. And you're gonna get a little taste of that in this next clip.
In your talks with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, do you intend to press him about how many deaths have been amongst Palestinians? Are you concerned about that death?
I talk about that too. Both sides mean a lot. I talk about that. I talk about the other side. I talk about everything.
What's your main message to him today during your meeting?
Well, I'm here to listen. He's here to see me, and I'm here to listen. So.
He's here to see me, and I'm here to listen.
Yep.
I'm here to listen to my boss.
Yep.
Okay, the person who calls the shots, especially when it comes to what happens to Palestinians, the fate of the Palestinians, the land in the Middle East, the decisions I make about Middle East foreign policy. It is so utterly disgusting. But this is what we're dealing with, right? I mean, the bribery is a huge problem. It impacts both parties. But you're right, Biden didn't go as far as Trump is willing to go in aiding and abetting the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. But I just want to take a quick moment to talk about what Biden did do. Because Biden refused to use his leverage. He refused to withhold American weapons and military aid to Israel until Israel agreed to a ceasefire. When you don't use any sticks at all, there is no incentive to bring Israel to the negotiating table in good faith to actually sign a ceasefire deal. So his mess bled into the new Trump administration, thus allowing Trump to do whatever he pleases.
Yeah, so that was wonderfully pathetic, as he said, big, bad, tough guy Donald Trump. Oh, nobody's the boss of Donald Trump. He'll do whatever he wants. And he said, "Oh, I'm here to listen. I'm going to listen, Benjamin. Please keep sending the money." Oh, Trump, pathetic. I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen. Yeah, why don't you send another $300 billion of our money to your overlords? So come on, man, there's not a person in the country that isn't a moron or a mainstream media reporter who doesn't realize that Washington, D.C. is occupied territory. It is totally owned and controlled by Israel. And so if you deny that, you're denying reality. And so now Trump's saying, "Oh, I wish they had somewhere to go. I bet they'd love to go." That's not 1% true.
Yeah, why don't we talk to the people who lost their homes in the Pacific Palisades? Because I recall Donald Trump, calling out Mayor Karen Bass in Los Angeles for not allowing homeowners in the Pacific Palisades to access their lots. They wanted to access their lots right away. But why? Why don't we just clean out the Pacific Palisades? There's nothing left. There's nothing left. Why don't we just find some other fresh plot of land? It'll be so beautiful. Why would they want to go back to their homes?
And maybe we send them to Guadalajara, or maybe we'll send them to El Salvador. Who cares about them? Oh, and maybe if somebody attacks Texas and destroys Austin or Houston or Dallas, we'll go, "Oh, it's already destroyed." Oh my God, if Israel did it, it would be allowed. I mean, God help us if Israel decides to attack us, because it would be totally allowed. No one would dare object in Washington because the bribes keep flowing in through campaign contributions from AIPAC and the Adelsons and everything else. It is disgusting. No, they don't want to go anywhere else. That's their home. You tell somebody in the middle of Texas, that's all right. The Mexicans or the Israelis or whoever the hell bombed your home, killed your family, but that's all right. We got you a beautiful place for you. Fresh start in El Salvador. Go for it. Okay, what would they do? What would they do? Everybody watching knows what the people of Texas would do. They would fight back against the colonial, imperial sons of bitches that destroyed their houses and their family. But if the Palestinians ever dare to fight back, terrible savages, they're the violent ones. No, Israel destroyed Gaza. Gaza didn't destroy Israel. Israel is Goliath, destroying everything in its path. Not innocent little victim, my ass. Not 1% victim. Israel, it loves this and loves bringing and playing along with our presidents. Netanyahu comes, he gets standing ovations from all the corrupt Republicans and Democrats kneeling before him, and then he plays puppeteer with Biden, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and I will listen to him. That's Donald Trump for you. Okay, where's the tough guy? Nowhere to be found as long as the money's flowing.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area.
The people of the area means Israelis who will now steal the Gaza Strip, steal that land and build settlements there that the United States will, I guess, pay for and facilitate. Today, President Donald Trump stated that the US will take over and own the Gaza Strip. And not only that, the US will clean it out too. What Trump didn't say, but is obviously implied, is that we are cleaning it out on behalf of Israel. And you can tell by the smirk on Benjamin Netanyahu's face in that video that he is very pleased with what his, servant is willing to do.
Yeah, take him around the park, BB, okay? Make sure he gets all the barking out of him and and of course you won't clean up his mess. Okay, so it turns out Trump's an even bigger dog of Netanyahu than Joe Biden was. And that was a hard bar, man, that was a high bar, because Joe Biden loved to do whatever Netanyahu ordered him to do. Now this is more, but look, let's say, okay, so two different things here. Number one, he says we're gonna own it. Like what? Like you're saying that to get MAGA riled up, like, yeah, man, we're gonna take Greenland, we're gonna take Panama Canal, and we're gonna take, wait, hold on though. Are we though?
No.
Are we going to own it? Because is it gonna be like Puerto Rico? And then we subsidize, et cetera, and Gaza's a territory of ours. Are they going to be the 54th state? No. I'll tell you right now, and if you're MAGA, if you're not a knucklehead, you already know this. No, that means we don't own it. That means we have to spend all the money cleaning up Israel's mess. And now the most important point, anti-war, boots on the ground.
Yeah, let me get to that.
Yes.
So, Trump also stated that the Gaza Strip should not be rebuilt, and he called it occupied. Occupied by the same people who originally lived there, meaning the Palestinians. Trump said that the Palestinians should go to other countries, and those other countries would allegedly pay for the reconstruction of new homes. So he wants to push Palestinians into Egypt, into Jordan, and then Egypt and Jordan will just pick up the tab of building new homes that Palestinian refugees would be living in. Trump even suggested that US troops could be sent to Gaza. He stated that the US would have a long-term ownership position in the area. And when asked who would live in Gaza after the Palestinians are pushed out of their own land, Trump gave a pretty vague answer about the world's people. Let's take a look at those comments.
Mr. President, given what you've said about Gaza, did the US send troops to help secure the security vacuum?
As far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that. We're going to take over that piece, and we're going to develop it, create thousands and thousands of jobs, and it'll be something that the entire Middle East can be very proud of.
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East.
How do you envision living there?
I envision the world, people living there, the world's people. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable.
It's going to be for Israeli settlers who have been eyeing the Gaza Strip since the beginning of this war. That is who will live there. The United States is going to probably help clean and reconstruct the Gaza Strip on behalf of the Israeli people. This is my prediction, but I have reason to believe that this is going to be the outcome.
No, there's no question about it. When he says the world's people, what he's saying is we're going to redevelop Gaza, just like my son-in-law Jared Kushner said well over a year ago. It's got beautiful waterfront property. Trump also talked about that. So when Israel runs it, everybody can go, and that way the Palestinians can go after we steal their land on behalf of Israel, and then we don't own it. We're gonna give it right back to Israel after we spend all the money. Plus, we're gonna do boots on the ground. And if you notice in the earlier clip, he said, to clean out the bombs that are there.
Right, yeah.
Oh, we wouldn't want IDF soldiers getting hurt.
God forbid.
No, sending Americans to get hurt.
Yeah, who cares?
Cleaning out the bombs.
They're disposable, right?
Yeah, but no. We're not gonna get involved in the Middle East, Trump said. We're anti-war, Trump said. No boots on the ground, Trump said. Now all of a sudden, Israel has ordered him to send boots on the ground, clean up their mess, steal the Palestinian land for them. And by the way, do you think the 2 million Palestinians, 2.2 million Palestinians there are gonna go quietly into that good night? No, the American soldiers will have to start doing the ethnic cleansing and the genocide. So Israel can go, I didn't do it. America did it for me. You see Netanyahu there smiling the whole time like, who's your boss? He's smiling at you, MAGA. And he's going, who's your boss now? Same as before. I own Biden and I own Trump. Go ahead, little doggy. Tell him exactly what I told you. American guys, you go get blown up by those bombs. You fight the Palestinians. You commit the genocide. You pay for it, and then hand it back to me, and I'll set up beautiful real estate there, and I'll get rich off of it. Hell no.
It doesn't matter what you want, Cenk. It doesn't matter what the American people want. It doesn't matter.
If MAGA licks Trump's boots on this and licks Netanyahu's boots on this, then you were nothing that you ever said. So never talk about anti-war again. Never talk about any of your so-called principles. Either you hold them to account now, or when our guys go and die there and all of our money goes to Israel, you never meant America first. You never meant a damn thing. So this is your time. You either check them now, or okay, then you were a cult. The most radical left-wing person was totally right about you. and all you ever wanted to do was serve Israel. And so, okay, congratulations. This is the big America First guy? I don't think so. I think he works for whoever pays him, and he just showed it to you.
I also hear the criticism, perhaps from some on the right, who would say, wait a second. You all criticized George W. Bush for nation building. Well, what is this? What will this be? How is this not de facto nation building? And to that you would say?
There's one deal no president's ever been able to make: peace in the Middle East. Is taking over Gaza the solution? We don't know. Do the Palestinians want this? We'll have to send Johnny to Gaza to find out. But you're not going to get results by doing the same old thing over and over again.
Maybe Trump is not trying to take Gaza. Maybe this is a grand part of a negotiation to get Iran to come to the table, to get Iran to hold back the proxies, to get Iran to stop its nuclear warfare on the world.
In order for Iran to stop its nuclear warfare on the world, it would have to, use nuclear weapons against other countries, which hasn't happened. In fact, there's no reason to believe that Iran has any nuclear capability at this very moment. But nonetheless, of course, if you're relying on corporate media to give you accurate information, you're just not going to get it. And just to answer Jesse Waters's two questions, whether the United States taking over Gaza will lead to peace in the Middle East or whether Palestinians like it, the answer to both of those questions is no. And Laura Ingraham is correct. There has been some pushback against Donald Trump following his pretty disgusting statements yesterday in regard to the United States taking control of Gaza, essentially being the latest occupier of that region, and even putting American military boots on the ground in Gaza to help clean it up, clean it out. Do away with all of the undetonated bombs. Absolute lunacy, and honestly, totally goes against what Donald Trump was representing himself as when he was running. He claims he's the anti-war president. He claims he is not interested in nation building, but he seems to want to pursue this. And we also have some more information about how long he had been considering this plan. Now, is this a negotiating tactic or is he serious? I personally think he's serious, but I also think that with enough pushback from his base, he could back off this idea. But let's give you some more details about what's going on. Now, of course, there are some Fox News hosts who are very much in favor of what Donald Trump had proposed yesterday during a joint press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, but at least one Fox News host has called Trump's bluff on his proposal. And we're going to get to that momentarily. But first, if you missed what Trump said yesterday, this will catch you right up.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site.
Mr. President, given what you've said about Gaza, did the U.S. send troops to help secure the security vacuum?
As far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that. We're going to take over that piece, we're going to develop it, create thousands and thousands of jobs, and it'll be something that the entire Middle East can be very proud of.
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East.
How do you envision living there?
I envision world people living there, the world's people. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable.
It's just as infuriating the second time I watched that. So if you hadn't seen it, there it is. And it does appear that what Trump said yesterday during that joint press conference caught Washington by surprise. There is a possibility that it even caught his own chief of staff, Susie Wiles, off guard. I mean, look, sometimes photos don't mean anything. Sometimes it just catches someone in a weird expression that doesn't indicate anything. But get a load of this picture. I think it's pretty incredible. Benjamin Ryan tweeted it saying, Susie Wiles' expression when Trump said that Gazans should not be allowed to return to Gaza is the new Fauci putting his hand to his face in the briefing room during the COVID pandemic, of course. So you see her eyes there. She looks shocked. But there are some people who did know that this was something that Donald Trump had been considering. 2 Trump administration officials said the idea of the Gaza takeover was formed recently. Interesting. With the president running it by aides and allies in recent days, the proposal was closely held, other administration officials who work on Middle East issues said. Everyone outside of Trump's inner circle was not aware of this plan and did not know that he was going to announce it. But according to that same report, Trump seems to have been considering this proposal for much longer than just a few weeks. In fact, apparently he had been thinking about this over the past year. In late summer, when the election cycle was still ongoing, Trump told Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, in a phone call that the Gaza Strip was a prime piece of real estate and asked him to think about what kinds of hotels could be built there, according to a person with direct knowledge of the conversation. But he didn't mention the US taking it over. The Times of Israel is also reporting that Jared Kushner played a pivotal role in hatcheting up this ridiculous idea of the United States essentially taking over and occupying the Gaza Strip. And there's more to this. This morning, Fox News host Steve Doocy, luckily, sees that this is a ridiculous idea. He even completely ruled out Trump's proposal to own the Strip. Let's take a look.
Obviously, the president knows when he says we'll take Gaza. He knows the United States can't invade another country. The last thing he wants to do is put boots on the ground in Gaza. I mean, he is always, in his first term, he was talking about he would like to get out of every war in the Middle East. I think what he did yesterday I'm going to give him the benefit of a doubt. I think what he did by saying, look, if we take over and we redevelop it, I think that's the first step in a negotiation.
Look, I think that Steve Doocy is right in that, Donald Trump wants to appease his base. He's not like Democrats. Like Democrats seem to loathe their base and will promise things, fail to follow through on those promises. And then if the base gets upset about it, they basically tell you to shut up and you have to still support us because the other side is so evil. Trump is different though. That doesn't mean that I favor Trump in any way, but it's just to say that when he makes promises that get him elected, he typically listens to his base. And when they're upset, he might decide, maybe this isn't a good idea. I prefer admiration from my base as opposed to them loathing me for not keeping my promises. However, there is an exception, and that exception is Donald Trump's own personal financial interests. He wants to make money off of this. I mean, I think it's pretty clear when he talks about building hotels and when he talks about America taking over the Gaza Strip, you think that it's just about peace in the Middle East, which of course, that idea, that plan wouldn't even bring about peace. No, it's about a money-making opportunity for Donald Trump. And if you think he wouldn't use American resources and wouldn't risk the lives of American soldiers in order to pursue his own personal financial interests, I have a bridge to sell you. I really do. So Steve Doocy isn't the only one trying to pour some cold water on this idea. Dave Smith, who's a libertarian, also says the following. He says that Trump has done a lot of good things in the last few weeks. That's his opinion. But it's hard to overstate how awful the Gaza idea is. Committing an ethnic cleansing on behalf of Israel, who has wanted exactly that, who has wanted exactly that way before October 7th, and taking ownership of the region is about as awful an idea as any president has ever had. I hope he reconsiders. And look, he might, if there's enough backlash, he might. That's really the only hope at this point. But let's now talk about the reaction from politicians, Republican politicians specifically. So unsurprisingly, many Republican politicians have completely signed on to this idea, are celebrating it. They think it's great. Others, though, do seem skeptical about it. So we'll start with the supporters. So first, you have Representative Nancy Mace, who's like really hell-bent on ensuring that I despise her, but she tweeted the following: "Let's turn Gaza into Mar-a-Lago." Then you have House Speaker Mike Johnson. I never doubted for a second that Mike Johnson is a neoconservative, and his neoconservative roots are really showing here, where he says, we're trying to get the details of it, but I think this is a good development. We have to back Israel 100%. Do we? Is that just a given? We just have to back Israel 100%, regardless of what they want us to do, how they want us to be involved? If we take the Israel lobby out of the equation, would Mike Johnson still feel the same way that the United States, the American people, our tax resources has to back Israel 100%? I don't know, something tells me that he might change his mind depending on, campaign finance laws and rooting out some of the influences that push our lawmakers to value the best interests of the Israeli government over the best interests of the American people. But I have more. Now, unsurprisingly, Democratic Senator John Fetterman also got behind the proposal as well. He even took it further. Fetterman called President Trump's remarks provocative, but said that he would support a potential American occupation of the Gaza Strip, adding that Palestinians for years have, and then he regurgitated Israeli government talking points and propaganda, refused or have been unwilling to deliver a government that provided security and economic development for themselves. I mean, I'm sure someone like Benjamin Netanyahu had nothing to do with that, right? Benjamin Netanyahu seeking to undermine the Palestinian Authority helped to funnel money to Hamas. But I'm sure Fetterman would never bring that up. Populist Republican Senator Josh Hawley, though, seemed a little on the fence. Here's what he said. I don't know that I think it's the best use of the United States' resources to spend a bunch of money in Gaza. I think maybe I'd prefer to be spent in the US first, but let's see what happens. So he's kind of attacking it from a America First perspective, which honestly for Josh Hawley, I think is very smart to do, because that is the angle that seems to be most persuasive with Republican voters. And in a pretty shocking turn of events, Senator Lindsey Graham, who never met a foreign war that he didn't love, publicly advised against Trump's suggestion that US troops could be sent into Gaza. Here's what he wrote on X. In 1983, 241 US service members were killed by Iranian-backed suicide bombers at the Marine Corps barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. Ronald Reagan stationed these Marines, sailors, and soldiers in Lebanon as part of a plan to stop warring factions in the region. As much as I admire Ronald Reagan, this was one of his worst decisions. I fear putting American troops on the ground now in the midst of a raging Middle East will yield the same results as it did in 1983. I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe for the first time, Lindsey Graham is right. I think it's a really bad idea to risk the lives of American soldiers by sending them into Gaza to clean it up, by the way, to deal with the bombs that haven't blown up yet. It's just unbelievable how worthless the lives of our soldiers are to these American politicians. It really does disgust me. Now, Senator Graham might want to reserve some of those American bodies for a possible war with Iran, which is what Graham has been egging on for years now. But let's go to Senator Rand Paul, who was much more direct in his framing. He said that the pursuit for peace should be that of the Israelis and the Palestinians. I thought we voted for America first. We have no business contemplating yet another occupation to doom our treasure and spill our soldiers' blood. So look, only time will tell what will happen next. But I will say this. If you listen closely to some of the statements coming from Trump administration officials, including his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, it seems like they're trying to backtrack a little bit on what Trump said. I don't want to get too excited yet, but listen closely to Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
What President Trump announced yesterday is the offer, the willingness of the United States to become responsible for the reconstruction of that area. And while you are rebuilding, while you're clearing debris, by the way, there are unexploded munitions. There are all kinds of Hamas weaponry still buried underground. For people to be able to live in a place safely, all of that has to be removed. It's an enormous undertaking. And the only thing President Trump has done very generously, in my view, is offer the United States willingness to step in, clear the debris, clean the place up from all the destruction that's on the ground, clean it up of all these unexploded munitions. And in the meantime, the people living there will not be able, the people who call that home will not be able to live there while you have crews coming in and removing debris, while you have munitions being removed, etc. So what he's very generously has offered is the ability of the United States to go in and help with debris removal, help with munitions removal, help with reconstruction, the rebuilding of homes and businesses and things of this nature, so that then people can move back in. But in the meantime, they'll have to live somewhere. It was not meant as a hostile move. It was meant as I think, a very generous move.
Trump said that the United States would own Gaza. How is that not a hostile move? Come on. Come on, Marco. I know you're trying to clean up Trump's mess here, but come on. But what was even more fascinating was the statements coming from White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. So let's take a listen to what she had to say today.
It's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
Because he did not rule out American troops in Gaza last night. Are you doing that now?
I am saying that the president has not committed to that just yet.
Okay, let's get that Trump press conference video ready again, okay? Because I want to listen to it one more time, but before we do, okay, that's A2. Before we do, the idea that the United States taxpayers are not going to be bankrolling the cleanup effort in Gaza and the reconstruction of Gaza is laughable. The idea that we haven't already spent $300 billion in foreign aid, military aid toward Israel is also something that should be cleared up here, that should be brought up. Because obviously, look, the left and the right, the people on the left and the right who have issues with our U.S. foreign policy as it pertains to this ongoing conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians, don't like it for different reasons, for the most part, right? I understand that. So on the left, there's the unfairness, right? The stealing of land from the Palestinians. Like there are moral issues at play for the left. Certainly that is what fuels my disdain for US foreign policy toward Israel and the Palestinians. For the right, what speaks to them is the fact that they are serious about being America first. They see the suffering in the United States. They see the fact that Americans are nickel and dimed by our lawmakers time and time again when it comes to important bread and butter issues, when it comes to things like healthcare, when it comes to things like ensuring that, our own are taken care of, homes that were lost as a result of natural disasters, hurricanes, fires are taken care of. That is what fuels them. So the reason why Karoline Leavitt in that press conference is trying to make it clear that no taxpayer money is going to go toward this effort is because she doesn't want to turn the Trump supporters off by telling the truth. And the truth is, we're going to keep bankrolling what's happening. We are. Okay, we're going to keep sending foreign aid to Israel year after year. That's never going to change unless we do something about the way our politicians and elections are financed. And we're obviously going to play a role in the whatever ends up happening with Gaza. Now, if Trump gets what he wants from that press conference, there's no doubt in my mind that the cleanup effort will be funded by the United States. And I want to be clear about something. We supplied the bombs that Israel dropped on Gazans. We supplied the bombs that destroyed nearly every single building in Gaza, every hospital, every school, every university, every refugee camp, all of them gone. So it's only fair that we help with the reconstruction effort in Gaza. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with, though, is that Israel, we're having a conversation about this as if Israel isn't responsible for paying for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. They're the ones who dropped the bombs, period. So look, we'll see what happens. It is so incredibly frustrating to play this game with people's lives, and not just the lives of Palestinians, but the lives of our soldiers, because we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what Trump is thinking. Some people who don't want to see Trump carry out what he proposed are hoping that he's just, this is like his negotiating tactic. I'm not so sure. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. But one thing that I do know is if there's a loud enough chorus of Trump supporters who voice their disdain toward any proposal like this, toward anyone who's proposing something like this, Trump might reconsider, might. And even that, I think, is being overly optimistic. But we'll see what happens. And one final thing that I'll say, an argument that I'll hear a lot of Republicans make in support of what Trump wants to do is, well, I mean, this is a better idea than what we've been doing. I mean, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You'll hear Republicans say that. Yeah, you know what? I agree with them that it is insane to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So how about we stop providing the offensive weaponry that Israel uses to essentially demolish all of these buildings and terrorize the lives of innocent Palestinian civilians in Gaza? How about we do that? How about we continue providing the defensive capabilities and stop sending them the bombs that they're dropping on Palestinians, both in Gaza and also, let's not forget, the West Bank? That would be a different way of doing things, but funny how that never gets brought up.
Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable to if people would focus on kind of building up, livelihoods. So I think that it's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there, but I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. I think proactively recognizing a Palestinian state would essentially be rewarding an act of terror.
That was President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, about a year ago. And his statement has only become even more ominous after President Donald Trump, of course, declared that the United States will own the Gaza Strip. That was a statement he made on Tuesday of this week. And in fact, Kushner is putting big money into an Israeli firm that finances and insures construction projects in Israeli settlements. So here are the details, courtesy of an in-depth report by The Lever. Last year, Kushner's private equity firm, because he is the head of a private equity firm after all, which is called Affinity Partners, invested in Phoenix Financial, which happens to be an Israeli financial and intelligence firm. So Phoenix is heavily involved in Israeli settlements. Let's give you a little piece of this info. Phoenix owns about 80% stake in a large shopping mall in an East Jerusalem settlement and stakes in various companies operating throughout other settlements. Phoenix has helped finance wind and solar projects in Israeli settlements and provided financial services to the local councils of settlements, including the Beitar, Lilit, and Oranit settlements in the West Bank. And let me just say, for those who might not be aware, the settlements, the Israeli settlements in the West Bank are built on stolen land. These are illegal settlements. They're seen as illegal settlements by the international community, but the United States aids and abets any bad behavior that Israeli settlers want to engage in, any bad behavior that the Israeli government wants to engage in. So there you have it. So when Affinity invested into Phoenix last year, it actually acquired a 4.95% stake in the company. And on January 15th of this year, Israeli regulators approved a deal that doubled Affinity's stake in the company. Kushner actually told Bloomberg the following: investing in Phoenix in July of 2024 was a decision rooted in my belief in Israel's resiliency and the fundamentals of Phoenix's business. 6 months later, the increased value of our shares reaffirms my conviction both in Israel's strength and the growing promise of Phoenix. Now, of course, Israel's strength is contingent upon the United States aiding and abetting everything and anything it wants to do. Doesn't matter if you're talking about a Democratic president or, in this case, Donald Trump, a Republican president. Israel gets what it wants. Meanwhile, settler violence runs rampant. According to the United Nations, settlers were responsible for more than 1,000 attacks on Palestinians last year alone, the highest level of Israeli settler violence ever recorded. So Donald Trump's decision to announce that he believes the United States should take over Gaza, I think was heavily influenced by his own son-in-law, Jared Kushner. This is something that Jared Kushner has been talking about over the last year, clearly. I mean, it's evidenced by the video that we showed you. And so I believe that the president sees this as a money-making opportunity. And that's what he's really pursuing here, Cenk. And the idea that the US should do this is ludicrous. The idea that you could do this without US military is ludicrous. And let's not like whitewash this in any way. It is the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. What Donald Trump is proposing is the stealing of land that belongs to the Palestinians. And it's going to lead to chaos and war in that region.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the boots on the ground and what Donald Trump proposed in just a little bit when we get to that part of the story. But first, Witkoff is the guy that Trump put in charge of negotiating in this situation with the ceasefire in Israel and Gaza overall. And Witkoff has had a lot of conversations with Kushner and has been taking advice from Kushner. So Kushner's clearly massively involved in all of these plans in regards to Gaza. And apparently Donald Trump changed the plans at the last second, a couple of hours before he met with Netanyahu, and that was after talking to Witkoff and Kushner. So when Kushner talks about how he invested in this Israeli company because he believes in Israel's resiliency, that's hilarious. No, he invested in them for logical reasons, I get it. Number one, he knew that they had already destroyed most of Gaza and they would try to destroy almost all of Gaza, which would then require reconstruction, whether the Palestinians are gonna stay there or Israel comes in and builds settlements, etc. There's no question that construction is gonna go way, way, way up soon. And this company would do financing for that, insurance for that, and they stand to make a ton of money. But wait, where's the money coming from? Well, that's the even more important part. A massive amount of US aid is about to go to Israel. I mean, we gave them over 20 billion last year. We've given them over $300 billion in the lifetime of Israel. And a lot of MAGA guys are a little bit naive about this. We're gonna talk about how they, in my opinion, did a great job of preventing boots on the ground. We'll get to that in a second. But when it comes to the money, they think now like, oh no, we're not gonna finance it. We know we're America first. And I'm like, okay, brothers and sisters, but you're about to get a rude awakening because that golden pager is not sitting on Donald Trump's desk at the White House because Donald Trump isn't serving Israel. Okay,
yes.
By the way, get that pager out of the White House. I mean, at a bare minimum, it has a bug in it. At a bare minimum.
Bare minimum, yes. So for anyone who's unaware, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gifted Donald Trump a gold pager, which of course was a reference to the exploding pagers that Israel sent over to members of Hezbollah. Now, of course, those pagers exploded in all sorts of public places around innocent civilians, but who cares, right? Doesn't matter. Who cares about civilian lives? I mean, it's not like the Israeli government has shown any concern for any civilians who aren't Israeli. But anyway, let's move on to what Donald Trump is currently saying in regard to his plans in the Middle East and in Gaza in particular. So he's scrambling to explain how his plan to own Gaza would really work. So this morning he wrote the following on Truth Social. Bear with me as I read through this lengthy statement. The Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel, right, at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinians, people like Chuck Schumer, would have already been resettled in far safer and more beautiful communities with new and modern homes in the region.
Sure.
They would actually have a chance to be happy, safe, and free. The US, working with great development teams from all over the world, would slowly and carefully begin the construction of what would become one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind on earth. No soldiers by the US would be needed. Stability for the region would reign. Yeah, the exact opposite would happen. The point you're making about the funding, Cenk, is incredibly important. And think about it. The funding would come from the American government, American taxpayers. It would be given to the country of Israel, as we typically do, billions of dollars year after year. And then that money would just get funneled to the development or developers who are building whatever it ends up getting built in the Gaza Strip, not for Palestinians. Palestinians will be ethnically cleansed from Gaza. And you think Israel is gonna hand that land over to the United States? I doubt it. Okay, I highly doubt it. And by the way, even if it was ironclad, contract indicating that they would do that, I still don't buy it. And even if that were true, I don't want it. The United States is not supposed to be in the business of nation building, and that is what Donald Trump himself has said. Why is the US getting involved in the Gaza Strip, getting involved in the ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip? Yeah. It's insane.
Okay, so let's break this down, because when Trump first came out, he said this lunatic thing about how we're going to take over Gaza, America is, we're going to rebuild it. And including, and I love that he said this because it makes it very clear what the original intent was. We will be dealing with the unexploded bombs that Israel dropped, but and it's because the blessed IDF, of course, they need to be protected at all costs. Those are Israeli civilians. They're worth about 10 or 100 or 1,000 American citizens. So we would send in Americans to clear out the unexploded bombs. Also, by the way, to actually move 2 million Palestinians forcibly, because they're not going to go voluntarily, into another country that isn't their home, and likely into the Sinai desert, where there will be no luxury homes waiting for them. There'll be tents and refugee camps for the rest of their lives. So, and remember, of course, when they resist being moved out of their homes, then we'll have to kill them. So now, what happened was, I said I think that MAGA would push back, and MAGA did push back. Now hold, there's nuance there. But first thing they said was like, wait, what are we doing? Boots on the ground? We all just voted against boots on the ground. What the hell are you doing? And it was a ridiculous idea in the first place. So Trump immediately backpedals and goes, no, I didn't mean boots on the ground. I didn't mean boots on the ground. So now he changes the plan from, and look, change it from a horrible plan to a slightly less horrible plan. Okay, I guess we're making progress. And yes, so MAGA, nice job on pushing back on that. But wait, now let's talk about his new plan. So now Israel is going to do its own dirty work. Okay, I hate it. I don't want it. I think it's terrible. I think it's textbook ethnic cleansing when you move people out of their homes and homeland and you shove them into a different place. Trail of Tears, Armenian genocide, Bataan Death March. These are all textbook ethnic cleansing genocide. So there's nothing pretty about it. They're not going to be in a better situation. They're going to be in a far, far worse situation. None of them want it. The neighbors don't want it. No one outside of Jared Kushner and his corrupt cronies and Trump, etc. And of course Netanyahu want it, right? So when you go to move them out, now apparently Israel's going to do it. He's saying that America will then own it afterwards. Now, yeah, right? Okay, stop right there. Like MAGA, you know that's not true, right? Like that's nuts. Please don't believe things that are not even within. Not even a 1% chance. You think Israel's gonna do all of that work and they're not gonna pay for any of it. And at the end, they're gonna be like, here you go, America, we love you so much, we're giving this land to you, instead of our crazed settlers who think that God promised it to them and burn the whole house down if we don't give it to them. So this is just madness. Of course Israel's gonna take it, right? Come on. You please don't tell me you were that naive. But he says that so that for the folks who are naive, they go, well, if they're gonna pay all the costs and they're gonna do it and we got no boots on the ground and later we own it, well, okay, maybe I like that plan. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now, no. Can I hold on one more thing and then I'll, sure. Yeah, then I'll go to you in this. Guys, if Israel's gonna do it, but we're somehow helping, what does that mean? How do you help without having boots on the ground? Are they gonna float in the sky? Our soldiers, our contractors, whoever we're sending in? No, of course. Okay, but even so, even if you say, no, okay, he's not gonna send a single American to do any of the dirty work. If you think we're not going to pay for all of this, you're on a different planet, brothers and sisters. And it doesn't really matter what we speculate today, and it doesn't matter how much you disagree with me today, because the bill is gonna come due, Netanyahu is gonna come to collect this check, and Trump and almost all of Congress will get walked around the park again, and they'll all give him exactly what they want. And then how mad is MAGA? That's gonna decide everything.
In fact, let me just note, when it comes to the Israeli settlers, first of all, separate them out from the rest of the Israeli civilian population, okay? Because the settlers and their behavior in the West Bank, for instance, is a perfect example of how they would behave if Gaza were occupied by Americans as opposed to Palestinians. By the way, Palestinians, it's their land. It's not an occupation of Palestinians. They have the right to that land. They're being pushed out, okay? But if you have Americans there, the Israeli settlers are going to treat the Americans the exact same way they treat Christians in the West Bank. You think they only target Palestinian Muslims? Please. They see that land as their land. They feel that they have a God-given right to that land. I mean, there are videos all over the internet of Israeli settlers literally spitting on Christians who are in the West Bank for their own, reasons of faith. So I don't believe for a second that this is about Americans taking over the Gaza Strip. In fact, we already have an Israeli government preparing for what Donald Trump wants to do here. Defense Minister Israel Katz says the military should prepare exit options by land, sea, and air so that anyone who wishes to can leave for any country willing to accept them. An Israeli Defense Ministry statement reads as follows: I welcome the bold initiative of the US President Trump, of US President Trump, which could allow a large portion of Gaza's population to relocate to various destinations worldwide. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu claims that Gazans who leave their homes would be allowed to return, but that's complete and utter garbage. I don't believe that for a second. The actual idea of allowing first Gazans who want to leave, I mean, what is wrong with that? Yeah. Netanyahu told Fox News Wednesday, adding that those who leave the Strip can come back. Katz stated that countries who have been critical of Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign, like Ireland, Spain, and Norway, are legally obligated to accept Palestinian refugees, and they would be hypocritical if they did not. No. These countries do not want to aid and abet the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from their own land. Okay, but Spain's Foreign Minister Jose Manuel Alvarez has already shot back, saying Spain makes its own decisions. No third party should tell it what to do, he said, adding that Gaza must be part of a future Palestinian state. In addition, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, and Jordan all have announced that they oppose Donald Trump's plan. And keep in mind that in 1948, the Nakba that occurred in 1948, 700,000 Palestinians fled and were forced from their homes as a result of the Israelis basically pushing them out from their homes, from their land, and into the Gaza Strip. Trump's proposal would basically amount to a forced relocation of 3 times as many Palestinians.
Yeah.
Any final words, Cenk?
Yeah, definitely. So, but after the Nakba, Israel allowed them back into their. Oh, right, they didn't. Of course they didn't, because their whole point was to take the land, and they did take the land. Look, I'm gonna make a declarative statement. If you believe that Israel will let the Palestinians return after they push 2 million of them out, instead of taking the land for themselves, you are the world's largest sucker. There is an absolute 0% chance of that. None. That's Israel laughing at us going, watch these dumb Americans. We'll tell them that they'll get it afterwards after they pay for it. They're not gonna do any of that. There's no chance at all. Okay, so, and by the way, what does it mean that America will own it? What does that mean? Is Gaza going to be our 51st state? Are we voting on statehood? Is it gonna be a colony like Puerto Rico or Guam or a territory? It's absurd, it's beyond absurd. I mean, please, you're like telling on yourself if you believe any of these fantasies. Okay, now, what do you think the Palestinians are gonna do, whether it's the Americans or the Israelis, that are moving them out of their homeland? Let's ask it this way. I usually use Texas as an analogy here, but you can fill in any state or any region or any people into this. What do you think that the good folks in Texas would do if they said, oh no, we're just gonna take 2 million of you and move you into Guadalajara, okay? Maybe you can come back later, but we already destroyed your homes, but it's okay. The country that had destroyed your homes and killed your family members, they're gonna push you out into a different country, and then maybe you could come back later. Okay, what do you think the good folks of Texas would do? They would fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. I don't know what the Palestinians are gonna do, but I know the Texans would murder as many of those occupiers as they could possibly get their hands on. And they would be called what? Freedom fighters, right? So you're gonna tell me that the Palestinians should accept having their homeland stolen? No, it is going to be an epic disaster. So you think less war? No. Anti-war? Hilarious. That's as pro-war as it gets, because at that point, they've got nothing left to lose. Right now, they're holding on to the thin hope that the monsters running the government in Israel will stop murdering them at some point, and that they could move back into their homes. If they lose that hope, what do you think they're gonna do? You think they're just gonna bow their heads and move to another country? No, you're going to have an epic war there. Guess who's gonna pay for it? And so guys, that's the ultimate showdown. At some point, the bill comes due, and Israel's gonna come for their next check. And it isn't gonna be the normal 4 billion we send them every year. It's going to be a much, much bigger number, just like it was last year. And just like Biden, Trump will say, absolutely, sir. Are you sure you don't want more, sir? I'll give you everything you want, sir. I got your golden pager right here. It's actually right here. It's up my one. Okay, so yes, did you see him how he pulled in the chair for Netanyahu, that dog Trump, humiliating this country, serving another foreign government? He will try to pay. You think his donors gave him hundreds of millions of dollars to not send our money to Israel? Please don't tell me you're that big of a sucker. So no, Trump will try to give them a giant sized check to pay off his donors. And at that point, MAGA, are you gonna sit there and take it? And are you gonna go, oh yeah, okay, no, America's second is not so bad, not so bad. My guess, and I know everyone on the left here disagrees with me, right? And I know that it's a bold prediction. I think MAGA will not sit there and take it. I think MAGA will say, yeah, you can take the very long walk off a short pier in Gaza. No, not interested in sending you another $20 billion or whatever size check that they want. And by the way, that wouldn't cover the reconstruction at all. So, okay, let's see what happens. But my guess is there's gonna be MAGA versus Israel lobby. And that is the first time in my lifetime where the Israeli lobby has a chance of losing. Because the left gets steamrolled every single time, and our politicians aren't on our side anyway. And neither are the Republican politicians, neither is Trump. But Trump is the only politician that I've seen in my lifetime that cares a little bit what his base thinks. So if his base clashes with his donors, that's gonna be epic. Which way it goes, I don't know. We'll see. But I think there will be a clash, and I think MAGA has some percentage chance of winning. But if they don't even fight back, we're gonna get robbed by Israel till the cows come home. Those Palestinians are gonna get slaughtered. There's gonna be massive ethnic cleansing, and it's gonna get way worse, not better.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a Young Turk.